the news that's dominated the past couple of weeks, and that was the Christian Petracca saga. And John Ralph, off the top, if you don't mind, Ralph, it's a big story when you've joined us in the first seg. Welcome.
Hello, guys. Yeah, so this was real for a very long time until it wasn't on Saturday night, where Christian committed his future to the football club. So he and his partner Bella drove this trade for a significant amount of time. He contacted rival players. My understanding, he's even keen to talk to rival pro scouts and list bosses to assess his options. That is unprecedented. I don't think we've ever seen that. That's how serious he was to drive this change. The options dried up though, and so you might say that he'll still get the cultural change that he wants. He still might get the positive result. But Gaz, I think he was hopelessly naive about the process itself and thinking it might stay quiet. But what do you feel about the fact that he stays and the magnitude of that decision for him?
Yeah, well, when we said all along, I don't think the football club, from their point of view, were ever going to trade Christian, and they stuck true to that throughout this whole process. Hasn't been a great couple of weeks for Melbourne. Probably not great for Christian either to have to go through it. I've listened to lots of stuff, read lots of stuff. It depends on who you're getting briefed by at the moment. That's the way this whole thing's worked, I think. The truth, as is always the case, lies somewhere in the middle. And you can apportion blame how you see fit. You can apportion it 80-20 to Melbourne, 40-60, in favour of Christian. The bottom line is, and I said this through the course of it, get in the room and sort it out. And eventually they did, belatedly they did. He's there. Cozzy will stay. Jack Viney's going to stay. Max has re-signed. Get on with it now. That's the way I'm looking at it. It was ugly, don't worry, and I think there'll be some casualties along the way as well. But in the end, I think this has happened a lot across the footy landscape. Unfortunately for Melbourne, this one played out really publicly, and it happens to be one of the best players in the competition.
Whilst there seems to be a resolution, currently in what Christian's going to do, there's still be a lot of work to be done. So whether it's done in the off season or whether it's coming back at pre-season training, you don't want another Clayton Oliver pre-season, and it's likely to be a bit of work there for the Melbourne hierarchy, leadership and playing group to work through.
Does this whole saga bring the cultural question to a head?
100%.
Ultimately, because it feels like it's been going on for years now. Yeah. And maybe Glenn Bartlett was pushed out of the job because he was the first one that wanted to really put the spotlight onto the cultural issues.
Yeah, and through it all, they maintain winning games of footy, which can maybe wallpaper over some cracks. Yeah. So whatever it is, at the end of the day, and you're right, and get to work on this, find out what it is and fix whatever the issues are. You've listened, hopefully. I'll be dumbfounded if they're not listening, and get to work on it.
So we're talking about cultural problems. Let's face it, the club has too many scallywags, and for Christian Petracca, he feels like he busts his butt on a weekly basis. He gives his days off for all of the amazing things that he does to try and hone his body, and there's too many players who...
Which he's contracted to do, by the way.
That's fair enough.
That's what he's contracted to do.
So my point is that Simon Goodwin's crystal clear about the challenges. There's been senior hospitality figures in the last few months have said to him explicitly, these are the players who are being scallywags, these are the players who need to pull their head in. So for him, we'll see Joel Smith will be off that list by the end of October. We've seen quite clearly that the penny's dropped for Clayton Oliver, and so that's a positive. Talk about the news at the top. So quite clearly Stephen Smith will be the next club president. Now Kate Roffey, I understand, has one more year on her term. So she is out at the end of 2025. She could go back to the board for a re-election. We all know that.
Wait, hang on. Stephen Smith's not even on the board.
Stephen Smith has been approached by the board, not by hangers-on, not by coterie members, by the board members to say, we want you to be on the board. There will be a casual vacancy by the end of the year, and quite clearly there'll be an orderly procession for him to be the president. Now, everyone that's talking about EGMs doesn't need another board election. It doesn't need another a board controversy. So I would say that by December, Stephen Smith, if he decides to come onto the board, will be the heir apparent. And by the very latest, by next December, Kate Roffey will move on. There might be a chance that she moves on earlier than that. But Stephen Smith, you know him well. He's a 200 gamer. He's the former MCC president. He's just finishing off his very successful law career. So, look, he's got plenty on his plate. How good would he be as the Melbourne president?
Well, you're getting ahead of it. He'd be a fantastic member of the board. So there's a vacancy at the end of the year, and if Stephen put his hand up for that, he'd be an unbelievable addition. He's got great history through his association. He was a captain of the footy club. He's blue blood. He's Melbourne blue blood royalty. You boys, you'd know that. He's intelligent man, enormously respected, who's been at the top of the administrative tree from an MCC point of view. So if he's on the board, that's a win.
And I think if he's on the board, he's going to become the president. There's no way that he's half pregnant on this. Just the one thing I'd show you is that a lot of people said, how did Melbourne stuff this up so badly? We'll just show you a July 1 interview with Melbourne did with Christian Petracca, where he basically talked about how well supported he was from Kate Roffey down. Here's that interview.
First couple of weeks was quite kind of it's kind of in my own little bubble, to be honest. I wasn't really on my phone much. I was in ICU for a bit, then at hospital, and then just being at home with Bella pretty much, and just being in isolation because of my spleen and the impact it had on it. Unable to see people, and had to get a lot of vaccinations done again. So it's been challenging. I'm a bit of an extrovert, so I love hanging around people. So that's been quite tough. But at the same time, it's kind of been nice to switch off and relax and spend some really quality time with Bella and do some cooking and watch some TV. So yeah, I mean, trying to find the positives in a tough situation. It's just a really tough period. The first 2.5 weeks, I literally haven't been able to see anyone. So it's all been just through text messages, and yeah, the support I've received has been incredible from Roffey, Kate down. So yeah, it's been awesome now that I'm able to kind of be out of this isolation period. You know, Gordy came around, which was awesome, and no doubt I'll be back in the club in the next few weeks. But no, it's been great.
So can you see why potentially Melbourne was a little bit blindsided when he said no one supported me? You know, I had my phone off. From Kate down, I was supported. You can see the mixed messages in that.
Yeah, it hasn't aged well. It's fair to say that bit of vision. Not for Christian anyway. So, but hey, we can't understand the trauma he went through either. So, you know, I understand he's just recently out of hospital when he conducted that interview as well. So,
what you do is you get in that famous room again, and you just put your hand up and say, yeah, I own this, you own that.
Yep.
Let's get through and get on with it. And they've got a lot of work to do, the Demons. And I think it's an exciting time when you can put all your dirty linen out on the table. Then the watch is how well you deal with it. And there's no club in the AFL who's had their linen more exposed than Melbourne. And now we sit and wait and go, what are you going to do? Here it is. The best player in the team's laid it out. It's been ugly. There it is. Now we sit back and watch, and I think it's an exciting opportunity.
And just to put a ribbon on it, so Cozzy Pickett, he's driving back to Darwin as we speak. He'll stop in at Adelaide and speak to his manager, Peter Wright, on Wednesday. He's going nowhere. He's a bit homesick, as he always is. His younger sister lives in Melbourne. He's there with his partner and his young child. Ideally, he'd love to have more Indigenous teammates. He hasn't really got a home, so he won't be going anywhere. Neither will Bailey Fritsch. A lot of talk about whether he's unsettled. That's not happening. He's staying. Get on with business and get better.
Get on with it. What about Jake Stringer? Where's he sit in all this not from a Melbourne point of view, from an Essendon Footy Club point of view? A little known clause has kept him alive.
Yeah, that's right. So he has got a contract, the Trigger contract, that gives him a $400,000 salary next year. So Essendon's basically saying to him, that's your salary, play on. He's saying, well, that's unacceptable. I think he would feel that's insulting. So it's not budging. Right now, Essendon doesn't believe that if he left, it would impact the harmony of the football club. Zach Merritt's already gone into bat for him. It's not to say that at some stage Essendon might not put in some performance clauses or increase that offer, but I think once you ask a player to test the market and say, if you can get 2 years go, I think once you say that, you say a lot about whether you trust them and whether you want them. Kick the 13th most goals in the AFL. And so, yeah, I think right now, if Jake could find a 2-year deal, he'd have a very, very serious decision ahead.
Because it's a Trigger, Essendon don't have any liability if he leaves.
No, so that he is still a contracted player. It's pretty much he has a contract for next year. I asked that question today,
If he leaves, has he chosen not to accept?
No, I think it is a contract now. So it's not something he can accept or not. He has a contract, as it was explained to me. So, but I would imagine
a pay cut though.
Yeah, he might have been on something like 600,000 or 700,000. He had a lot of incentive-based clauses, and he just kicked 42 goals. And so, effectively, ostensibly, he has a contract. And if he was traded, I assume it'd be for a late pick. They've shown him they don't really want him. Or only want him at a very certain price. So Sydney's been mentioned in dispatches today. If I was Melbourne or Collingwood looking for key forwards, 400,000.
Can they incentivise that up to 6 or 7?
Absolutely,
on the back
they
of
can.
The sort of year that he has.
Yep, but at this stage they've decided not to. They're saying the next step is for you to go and test the market.
Right.
So if I was him and I found 2 years at 600, which let's face it is the top 200 pay scale, it's not very much money in an AFL salary cap with 18 million.
It's a very reasonable chance of that happening.
You'd think. Well, he sat in that chair a couple of months ago.
He was happy for a 2-year deal at that stage, not 3.
Yeah.
2 years is a long way away.
400 seems low for a player to have reached his triggers, his performance triggers. So essentially he's taken a pay cut while the salary cap's going up by 20-25%.
same.
So it just doesn't seem like a great deal for Jake Stringer.
No, that's what I'm saying. I thought he would have been incentivised to earn 6 or 7 on the back of 30, 40 goals, All-Australian, top 5, something along those lines. Be interesting. You're at the Dogs today?
I was at the Dogs, and look, I was there at the All-Australian as well, where I saw Adam Treloar climb up at the stage, and you presented him, or you were awarding him the All-Australian nomination, first time this year. So I had to go out to Whitten Oval today, and I said, what about your relationship with Nathan Buckley? He was amazing. He said, I read you the quote. We haven't been able to sit down and talk to each other. He was the one reason I went to the Pies. I love the guy. He backed me in. He always did. There'll be a time when we sit down and give each other a big hug and tell each other we love each other, because we do. Of course, he was so hurt by being traded, and we all understand the circumstances. They're great words. Well, what do you think of those?
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice to hear. We've it's been nearly 4 years now, so I suppose that you don't want Christian Petracca to take that long, and it's probably when you're in the same building, it's a little bit easier or more important to be able to build those bridges. But yeah, Ads he's done remarkably well, and we do. I love him, and we had the professional responsibilities got in the way of the personal relationship there for a while, but it'd be great to reconnect.